Hello and welcome. Today we are in the series called Creative Minds, which we have collaborated with AACA, and we have got Dr. Kushal Sanghvi. And thank you very much for joining us for the show, sir. And we have a media veteran. He has over 3 decades of experience, majorly on the digital front and also in print media and various forms of media and publishing. So we will talk further with him. Thank you very much for sparing this time, sir. You've been for the event, and we're shooting this on Sunday afternoon, and we're catching up. We're trying to create more business avenues for Gujarat and Ahmedabad as AACA is putting a lot of efforts getting veterans like you. So it was a blast yesterday, and you were rocking as usual, and you were straight on the point.
Instagram, when it launched, people said, what's the space? People post pictures, videos. And literally within a span of 5 to 7 years, it's become that hot spot where if you're not seen on Insta, there's something wrong with you. Literally the world collapsing, ending, coming maybe to a stage of sort of feeling like we may not even survive with the pandemic. And the pandemic created opportunities for people coming together across platforms like Zoom. As people, do we really want to see news or read news which is headline and just top of the mind? Or are we that sort of consumer who wishes to have in-depth reportage? So which is why globally, if you look at a Washington Post and so many others, the Sun Review and so many others, they're all paid platforms.
The tech giants, they are big. They're big. Whether it is Times of India, whether it is any other medium, there is a huge money going in being there, getting the number of traction, traffic. So whether it is my podcast, I would have to reach an X number of people. To reach an X number of people, I have to put my money on the table. You have spent around 3 decades majorly working on the digital spectrum. Can you share a little bit about your journey into advertising and digital footprints we have been making?
I think India has sort of, been crazily developing, growing, and I've been just blessed to have started sometimes what I would call right timing, right opportunity. And to be honest, I think when I began that journey as anyone in their first job, I wouldn't know what digital would have been sort of so many years back as well. But as perhaps God had some plans for me for sure. And digital has been that beast which has just grown across the world. I still remember days and sort of, years when it was less than 1% of any media spent. And we would wonder and think why. And we would almost ask ourselves when we would meet clients, brands, marketers, saying, why is it that they're sort of spending such a small amount of money? And we would feel sort of sometimes even bad, saying by the print guys and by the TV guys and when other mediums were sort of getting their pot of the pie, where it was so minuscule. But I think with the evolution of time, I think what's really happened is consumers have become more sort of digitally sort of savvy. They moved fast with email. From email, they moved to content. From content, they moved to social media. And what's really happened is almost every 5 to 7 years, there's been a new beast in town. Literally a new beast. Yeah. So when Facebook came, everyone thought that was the biggest thing which ever happened.
Right.
Yeah. Suddenly then we had this big communication giant called WhatsApp, which was independent to Facebook. And then, by the stroke of luck, Mark Zuckerberg bought it out as well. And WhatsApp today is by default the communication platform for 900 million Indian people. What other platform in the world can be as big? Post which suddenly we thought there was a small little platform called Instagram. When it launched, people said, what's the space? People pick up pictures, post pictures, videos. And literally within a span of 5 to 7 years, it's become that hot spot where if you're not seen on Insta, there's something wrong with you. And immediately after that, we see literally the world collapsing, ending, coming maybe to a stage of sort of feeling like we may not even survive with the pandemic. And the pandemic created opportunities for people coming together across platforms like Zoom and so many others. So what you'll see is across these so many years, either it's been natural situations, it's been technology advancements, it's been products, and many things coming together, which have actually sort of shaped the narrative of digital.
Right.
And clearly, because of that, I think that journey of being either on the marketer side, which I've been on, either on the agency side, which I've been on, and I've been blessed to sort of see different phases and different sides in terms of spending money, looking at digital transformation, looking at tech creation, looking at just growing more tech in their own team internally as well. But I think this journey has really been also, I think, one of the most fulfilling because almost every day you get to learn. There's not a single day which you feel that you've not learned something new. Of course, in the last 2 years or 3 years, people didn't know 2.5 years back when OpenAI came out or when ChatGPT came out. Everyone said this is something new. But today, it's almost impossible to feel that we'll not live in a world without AI because it's becoming our pretty much default space of even searching for information. So what's also happening is that things which were permanent or in a space that we would feel that this is going to continue to be may not be. The WhatsApp that we know today may not be. The Google that we knew isn't. The Hotmail that we grew up on isn't. The news spaces that we consume news on aren't. So in this continual fluidity, we're seeing so much more happen. People shift budgets. And today we're talking about closer to 61% of the overall ADEX being spent on digital, which is upwards of 100,000 crore rupees from a time where it was less than even 500 crore rupees.
It was very limited, and it was even the reach at that point of time was different, and now the reach is massive. We are talking and everyone is listening.
And the story of it is actually, if you start with the story which I'm so bullish about, is the India story. It's not the digital story. India has the largest Facebook universe. India has the largest WhatsApp universe. India already has the largest OpenAI universe. India has the largest Insta universe. The only unfortunate part is that in this entire ecosystem, there haven't been too many Indian platforms, so as to say. But I think with the evolution of AI and a lot of Indian companies like Perplexity and many others, I feel the wave of India even there is coming.
As we had talked about in various people's conversation, in advertising, that it is a constant reinvention of the wheel.
Yes.
Where the wheel is there,
Yes.
but say the news is there, but the distribution means and the way people consume things will change.
Sure.
People are going to eat food same ways. It's the taste, the palate, the way they are served, the way their experience have changed. The same way in the news content or media habits, everything is evolving. Right from time COVID came in a time where people were like they just moved to digital overnight in one wave. It's like pre-COVID, post-COVID, and the habits have changed.
Sure.
In 6 months, in 3 months, in say 1 year, that period has completely changed, and you would find a person completely different before and after. But we talk about the age much before COVID,
Sure.
where the journey of India's digital experience started.
Sure.
So we talk about when you were very much instrumental as a part of Rediff.com,
Yes.
where the entire way, the way people were getting news had changed. People who were experiencing email had changed. There was Rediff chat. Also, there were some messengers. Rediff Messenger was there. This is where I remember as a user.
Sure.
And then after Hotmail, Rediff happened. So tell us about the journey. That what were your thoughts before Rediff, and when you actually did it big, what changed your insights?
I think Rediff was at, milestone, not just personally, but it was the space that I think we were trying to give every Indian that email box, which he could be feeling good about. and what we called it as lightning fast email. It was by default the fastest email service that you could. And that was the positioning as well. And of course, it came with a lot of storage, which of course was much earlier and before even Google launched their email service as well. So pretty much a first mover advantage. And email pretty much became that default email for sort of millions of Indians. But I think beyond of email, I think what we sort of did realize is the sort of space that I think we would want to sort of give news, what we would call as breaking news. So when anything happened, today we sort of see that happening on social media, on Twitter and so many other platforms. But pretty much about 25 years back, 30 years back, really broke news. News of all sorts, political, business, cricket, whatever as well. And I still remember there used to be times when we would almost cover cricket ball by ball. So what you sort of, I think, follow today on a lot of online platforms of cricket, and there's so many of them, but Rediff did that 25 or 30 years ago. So literally ball by ball, you knew what was happening.
There used to be SMS updates also.
So there were SMS updates. There were so many things. It was, I think, in that space of really trying to give Indians. And it wasn't just about that. It was about every single thing, as rightly said, right? So we made chat rooms. We actually sort of created a whole room for almost every week. We would have celebrities and actors and actresses coming into our office in pretty much a similar setting that we're sitting in right now. And there would be an Amir Khan, or there would be a Mr. Bachchan, or there would be so many people just walking to the office, and we would have our people doing these sort of, I think, chats with them, and they would talk about their journey, or they would talk about a particular new movie which was being launched. So in those good old days, if a big movie was coming, it was that place that they had to come to the Rediff studio to promote their movie. So I think really pioneering many things which even exist. So today, the same movie which gets released on a Friday, the mechanism and the dynamics of them doing marketing for a movie is changed. But 25 years back, the same concept still happened. A director or a producer or the actor came into a Rediff studio and put out the story and put out the reason why they're so excited about the movie.
Right. So you were bringing in a lot of buzz around what's happening around India, and that was Rediff was the center of attraction, and Rediff was spreading the waves across, and people wanted to be online.
Yes.
People really wanted to be online. Hotmail, I think it was very smaller mailbox.
Hotmail, of course, was the biggest for sure. Yeah, it was, of course, sort of something that Samir Bhatia, who's a close friend, had created, which then, of course, Microsoft acquired and then did really well for a while. But unfortunately, as I said earlier as well, nothing is permanent until suddenly when, master of it all, Google decided that, hey, you know what, we want to give as much GB free and just sort of convince. But of course, even between the Microsoft or the Hotmail and Google was also Yahoo. So we mustn't realize or mustn't forget that there was this big, huge sort of company called Yahoo, which we also sort of consumed.
Right. The music, Yahoo, that was a very amazing jingle and content they created, and there are a lot of things around it. And but yes, for India, Rediff was a very big milestone for Indian email experiences and plus news, how they consume news. Now we talk about consumption of news. You were also associated with Bennett Coleman and company. You'd worked with them on a lot of things. Now, how do you see the transition of print and digital together, or print transforming to digital and making sure that everything is they are not missing out on any space? Because Times of India, my ex-employee, I've worked in Times of India. I know we've been spelling space. We've been doing a lot of things. They also transformed to indiatimes.com and a lot of things. So how has been your take on that? That how did these kind of giants and what were your role into it?
So I'll tell you what, Times of India is that legacy company. There's so much of trust that Bennett Coleman has played in all of our lives, right? So if you had to really look at reading news first thing in the morning, the only thing that you would feel comfortable with was the Times of India. At least for most people growing up in big metros. It could be the Hindu in South, it could be a Statesman Telegraph somewhere else, but for the majority of Indians across, it was Times of India. It was only that after many years of the fact that it was, a space of sort of giving stuff in the print edition, that people realized that more and more people are getting onto using smartphones. people are getting to use and see or look for news coming up in those platforms that India Times was born, and was that space of giving content what I would call is a crisper, shorter format. So the brevity of the format, because it was digital, was the differentiator. So if you wanted to read the typical long story, in depth, all of that was Times of India. You want to get snackable content, quick read, was Times of India Digital, which was India Times and many others. And to think that, of course, because of that legacy they have, I think Times of India still continues even on digital, one of the largest consume platforms. And across almost all their platforms, whether it is Economic Times, Times of India, and many others which they run as sort of content, they still run supreme.
Another thing in terms of this transformation, where when newspaper comes, it comes at a subscription cost.
Yes.
Where on internet, the news is like free at a lot of platforms. A lot of platforms have started their subscription that no, it has to be valued.
Sure.
We are giving you authentic news. There is a big debate that whether the news should be paid or free.
Well, I think it's also the fact that I think as people, do we really want to see news or read news which is headline and just top of the mind? Or are we that sort of consumer who wishes to have in-depth reportage? So which is why globally, if you look at a Washington Post and so many others, the Sun Review and so many others, they're all paid platforms. And of course, India has seen that as well. In these last many years, a fair amount of, I think, companies have their own paid versions. So you get detailed analysis, reviews, reportage, which I think is for the discerning audience. It's not for someone who just wants to sort of know what's happened and snacks and gets out. So people are happy paying a good premium, to be very honest, a month, a year to have that. And it's not just newspapers. We've seen a flurry of magazines take to that as well. In fact, the print magazines at some point, we all grew up at times when there would be almost 500 magazines falling off bookstores. Yeah. And those 500 now are relegated to maybe less than 30 to 40 because most of them have become digital. So even, lifestyle or anything that you could think of in print, which is magazine, is also now digitized.
And now, what is the future for digital advertising? Because when we talk about digital advertising, major chunk of that goes to Google, Facebook. Say major point of it goes to Meta, Google, and the tech giants. They are big. They're big. Whether it is Times of India, whether it is any other medium, there is a huge money going in being there, getting the number of traction, traffic. So whether it is my podcast, I would have to reach an X number of people. To reach an X number of people, I have to put my money on the table. There has to be some money put in the table.
Absolutely.
There is nothing organic left.
Sure.
Where if I have to reach a quality audience, I have to pay for it. And if I build that audience, then the role comes of monetization. Monetization बाद में आता है. पहले सबसे पहले audience लाना पड़ेगा, audience को value देना पड़ेगा, और फिर उसका monetization आएगा. But in this monetization circle, where we are talking about, say, the Hindu, the Times of India, the Telegraph, there are n number of newspapers, and they are legendary newspapers. They are not small. They've been a huge reach. They have millions of readers, and there is Gujarat Samachar in Ahmedabad, Divya Bhaskar is at different places, and then there is Sandesh. Now we have Gujarat Samay, which Times of India had, and now it's a separate company. Ahmedabad Mirrors, everyone. But in this entire everyone of India, the media giants, they are not making that 70-80%, and 70-80% is going to Google. So how do you see this?
See, you have to realize one thing, that I think advertising essentially goes into places where consumers are. And if you look at that entire ecosystem, clearly there's a place which we would call as search, which picks a good portion of the overall digital budget. After search, there is social. Beyond social, there is video of all formats. Within video, you could classify them as YouTube, CTV, and other formats of video. there is a new emerging trend, which is what I would call as e-commerce media or retail media, which is now very fast growing as well. And then there is a lot of all what we would call as sort of news and places of interest, which is also sort of all there as well. So those are the all spaces which perhaps money in digital advertising gets spent on. Your question was yes, companies like Meta and Google picking up large. Yes, 70% of the large budgets do go into those platforms because they have a lot of those spaces. But there's a bit of a shift because it's not just perhaps what it used to be, only sort of a Meta and a Google. Suddenly, about 10 years back, a giant like Amazon's come in. And with their offerings like Prime, with their offerings like shopping, they're becoming the third largest tech company, taking the largest amount of money from brands. So you've got them. While we're sitting here, I'm 100% sure in exactly a year from now, there may be a company like OpenAI, which already is working on its entire ad ecosystem platform. So they will already build that entire narrative of how brands can spend money with them. So while consumers are on these platforms and therefore advertising shifts there as well, but India is also fairly unique. And I think the uniqueness is in terms of the kind of time that we spend on the internet, where we spend, what we do. We're the only country in the world where we've called ourselves as perhaps snackable content under 2 minutes, under 1 minute. So imagine everyone who's using even ways of traveling in a public transport, literally hanging in the bus or at a train, sitting in an auto, and you're here literally either looking at a reel, but what I would call as micro format of content. And we're seeing a lot of brands put money there or also put their brand within the content. So you as a brand owner, if you know that this is perhaps the thought going to be in that piece of content, you sit with that creative team or director to ensure that there is product placement in that 2 minutes. So then that's the future of what I would call as integrating content. And that was happening earlier, perhaps in movies or even on TV. But what digital content is going to do is it's just democratizing and making sure brands are up there in all pieces of content.
In the morning, when some influencer picks up and starts crying or shouting, and there's a rage like Poonam Pandey or various, they are having their own outlet of communication, whether it is Rakhi Sawants of the world or it is political drama or a lot of things, or cricketer.
India's sort of people are always been people who love to express themselves. Unlike any other community in the world, Indians are the most expressive. And for them, expression means in their language, in their style, in their way to become voyeurs or to become people who can put out their thought. Because of which, suddenly we've seen what this word we use flippantly called influencer or creator. We've always been people who love to chat. We've always liked gossip with our neighbor. We've always liked to indulge in any conversation, even in college campuses, setting up nights in, say, for example, in a hostel, just talking bad about your professor or whatever as well. So imagine all of those cues. So we're a country built with conversations and what I would call chai pe charcha. So Emathi, what has really sort of come out and manifested is people like you and me having this chat today. It's a form of an expression of two people just chatting and then a piece of content being created. And there are tons of that. You'll be amazed that in these last few years, just the kind of money India spends close to 9,000 crore rupees on influencer marketing. Now, 9,000 crore in so many years is perhaps bigger than outdoor. And imagine influencer marketing is just one vertical of digital.
But digital influencer marketing is one of digital. But how much influencers put in the money or wannabe influencers or people who are on the starting stage. There are different stages in influencer marketing, and plus there is no filter across. You've been drafting the governing council and the way influencer marketing is going to run from now. You're bounding it with governing, and there is guardrails which we create, because guardrails is required in every form of communication, media, and wherever, whether it is advertising, whether it is news, whether it is anything, there has to have a guardrail which you're creating. But these influencers, which also might overlap with podcasters in some all form of creators. Now, podcasters, creators, influencers, everyone put together, how much money do they put in on Facebook, Meta? And I would want to talk about the economy surrounding this entire economy. So there is an economy of putting money on advertising. There is an economy of creating content. So
What you also have to realize is good content, if it is really good, will get viewers, and by default it will get the traction. You will not need to amplify that by really putting big money. What typically happens is, when you're starting out something and you're not too popular, or you're creating a new category, or you're a first mover, right? So the kind of people who sort of have those millions of followers, lakhs of followers, they don't necessarily need to really push out themselves, spend money getting that, because by default people are consuming it. And because people are consuming it, what is happening is, by default there is a way those platforms are enabling for monetization for those creators. In fact, they've gone a step forward where they're actually co-creating content with brands. Yeah, which is where you'll see the likes of Raj Shamani or many others. You'll actually sort of see him or her consuming content on behalf of a brand. So there are different ways of how the kind of dimensions of content creating are happening, how brands are utilizing it, how platforms are utilizing it. And I think one of the large things which happened in these last few weeks is, I think one of the largest content marketing influencer companies is what OpenAI has bought out as well. So that could be again a new thing which will happen, that you will probably get to see on your own prompts, you'll get to see content. So change is inevitable. We can't really reverse the law of change, and we've got to only accept and be with that flow.
So change is inevitable. And also, when we talk about these distribution networks, democratizing the distribution network, the way news, various content is coming, they're very limited. There is Google controls the most of the chunk, because if video content we are talking about, YouTube is there.
Sure.
There are platforms, there are people who have come out from news channels, people who are market leaders, great journalists, not naming anyone.
Sure.
So they have started their own platforms.
Yes.
Because of their own reasons. They have their business reasons, they have their professional reasons.
Sure.
Everyone has their own approach. After having experience, they really want to do it without any boundaries, any hold. They want to do it. So they start their own channel, their websites, they put their video on their server itself. Compared to that way approach of creating their own distribution network versus the current distribution network, what kind of change you think is going to happen in terms of distribution of content over a period of time?
Let's face it that you can literally sort of keep talking till perhaps the sun comes out tomorrow morning, but I think YouTube is that universal one space which is the largest disseminator of content. And after YouTube, it's perhaps Meta. And therefore, for anyone, whether it's for a person who's putting out news content or is putting out devotional content, it could be a chef who's putting out a recipe. It could be a lady who's a celebrity and is talking about the kind of clothes you should wear. All of those people are becoming creators, and for them the first port of call or their first destination to put up a piece of video is always YouTube. Because you spend a lot of money if you try very hard to get people to your video platform. because it's almost like saying you sort of create, a shop within Amazon, or you try and build your own platform and to spend crazy amount of money to tell the world that come to this www.com to buy soap or shampoo or whatever as well. Or you put your soap or shampoo into Amazon because you have millions of people there. The same logic. The logic is that they're sitting with millions and billions of people. So for the news creators, and it's not just news. We spoke yesterday itself. The entire RJ community is there. There's more traffic of a Malishka and so many others on their Insta and YouTube platforms than what people are listening on radio. So the whole trend has changed because people, are wanting to also experience stuff in a video format. They want to see you and me. They don't want to read it. And if they want to see it, they want to see it short, crisp, easy, imaginable, and believable as well. So which is why you'll see almost every company, even the typical large television shows, the most popular TV shows today across the world, not in India alone. So whether it's the Idols, which is an Indian Idol in India, but the Idols, for example, or if it is an X Factor, all of those, they have their own formats today made especially for YouTube. And today you'll see one of those reels on Insta, or you'll see it on YouTube. You've got millions of people only on the one video. So they've realized the power of the consumer watching that same piece of content on, say, Channel 7 in Australia, but they're seeing that no one's seeing Channel 7, but everyone's on YouTube. So let's create that content, put it up on YouTube.
Earlier, there was an age of set-top box where content was disseminated. News channels used to be on set-top box, and now there's the dish TVs, and then now YouTubes of the world, and everything is on internet. Now coming to the point where there is constant debate about digital first or only digital in the market, or every other medium complementing digital. What do you see the market is in today? Digital only, digital first, or other mediums complementing?
As you're rightly saying, it's a combination of all. We have to realize that, India is not India the way we see it sitting in Ahmedabad or in Bombay or in Delhi. India truly is in an Ahmedabad, which is Raebareli, Lucknow, Trichy, Kozhikode, Assam, somewhere else. And the consumer there is very different for you and me there as well. Understanding the touch points, the spaces that he goes to, and brands need to touch him there, get him or her there. So I always feel in a country like India, multiple platforms will survive because audiences are there. And if you're a large company like Unilever selling mass products, you will have to be in a space of dominance. You will have to use a TV. You can't underestimate the power of a Kyoki Saas at night when it comes at 10:30 in the night, because millions of Indian families watch it, which is why it's still so popular after 25 years and a second season coming. So that will itself tell you that there is still the reason for TV to coexist with digital. You still have a discerning audience who will read that newspaper in the morning, which is why you'll see digital companies advertising on front page newspapers when they have an IPO. You'll see digital first companies using only digital. So for them, it'll be a strategy of using just Amazon, just platforms like Yahoo and Google and what have you as well. And there'll be companies using all. I would think the best thing would be to understand where the consumer is. Plan really. I think what we've realized and what we're not doing well is that media planner has so much work to do. Gone are the days that he had 5 places to put money. Today he has 500. So hell is broken. Literally hell is broken on his head. But because of the fact that he wants to make his life easy, and his life easy, which means he's responsible for certain KPIs, ROI, performance metric for sale, conversion, whatever as well, he will happily put places where he knows that if he does the right checkboxes, he'll have his KPIs set. And therefore, digital does that most beautifully, which is why it's coming to 60%. Then today, as you're rightly saying, other mediums like print, like outdoor, they're all becoming what I would call the digital shift mediums. Almost every ad on a Times of India has a QR code. A lot of communication on outdoor has QR codes. What they're doing it for is they're enabling for conversion metric tracking, viewability, and trying to get ROI. So I would just feel that each other medium is also adding their own technology layer. While it may seem as print, they're making print bolder, better, more innovative with technology.
It's a very important aspect which you have shared, that it is outdoor complementing with digital. There are companies who are digital companies coming and advertising in print for their IPOs and different aspects and their communication. And now they also have the money. The digital companies have a lot of fundings and a lot of money. Uh, People call it burn, or it's kickstart money or whatever it is. But when you do something new, you need money, whether it is about building infrastructure, bridges or airports or anything. You need money on the table, because without money on the table, things don't work. And of course, the money is put on the table to make more money.
And we also must realize, let's face it, that since we talk about advertising is a medium, or it is a communication space which essentially needs to make you feel good. It must get you to feel for that brand. Today, I'm sitting with you in Ahmedabad, and one of the largest companies in this city is Adani. And if you see some of the last pieces of big, beautiful content Adani has done, it's a lovely piece of film that Piyush Pandey has done. The whole film on the Pankha film, if you've seen. It's a lovely piece. It's more than 1.5 minutes, the original piece. It's meant for television. It's a lovely piece of communication. There are various adapts of it on digital as well. And you'll be amazed that film has won critical acclaim in the advertising fraternity and industry. Just 2 days ago, they won the Olive Crown Awards, which is, I think, one of the largest awards in the space, which talk about more of conserving the environment, but Adani's got that. So I think what we also need to realize is, what is this industry all about? Advertising is meant to create for making us feel warm, comfortable, closer to those brands.
I'm just moving towards the last bit.
Sure.
Because with your limited time with us and bounded with time, we would like to sit all day. And there is so much of depth. As we are sitting at House of Starts, we would not stop talking on startups and funding.
Sure.
Your different perspective on startup funding. And this is the age where new media will be formed. A lot of new things will be happening. I also happen to consult some startups who had got early funding, but they couldn't do it because they didn't have the revenue model. They wanted to burn. They wanted the users to come in, test it, run it. The venture capitalists did it. There are stories of Food Panda of the world, and now we have story of Byju's, and then we have story of Zomato. Big valuation numbers. So I would want to go to that thing, that when Byju's created an edtech platform and they were burning money, the Indian cricket team sponsored, they want every possible way of getting the user there, and people are like scared. Boss, Byju kya kar raha hai? So my investors at that point of time, they said, just create the business model and get it working. But when it was started, it was never worked on. When they wanted users, that let's make it big, let's work on the valuation, number of users, this and that. Someone who's worked in Silicon Valley come back and funded our startup. At that point of time, this we are talking about COVID time or pre-COVID time, where we were doing it. Now there are a lot of cases like that where the ideas are great, the thoughts are great. It was like first review rating college platform, which everyone else adapted, but the startup couldn't. The startup which had planned couldn't, and now they're re-engineering, getting in new infusions, and they're putting in new things, and they're doing well. So I'm just trying to understand from those perspective, when a startup comes in and when they just burn around, say, so 1 CR for very small startups, and for big startups they come and burn 1,000 CR, and they're just putting that money on the table and then disrupting the entire market. How do you see these kind of startups as on the chair, not on the digital media person, but on the person who's funding that money?
See, if you ask me, the point is today, it's about understanding that even 50 years back or 100 years back, when new brands came in, they had to connect with the audiences in the few spaces which were mediums then. Even 80, 90 years ago, people did that. And today, of course, because the world has changed and there's so much of competition, and almost every day, 100, 200, 500 companies being created, born, you've got to be seen in so much amount of content explosion, which means you have to shout from the rooftops that you exist and you created a new shampoo, or you're a new edtech brand, you're a new fintech brand, and nothing comes cheap. People think digital is cheap. Digital is performance, is ROI, but it's not cheap in that sense of the word. And therefore, I would just think that I think often enough people say that there's a burn, you put so much of money. Do we often ask questions when, say, a brand like a Campa, which was just born 3 years back, do we ever say that Campa is burning money? Why do we use the word burn for a startup? He's also investing. The flaw lies in our system to use the wrong, bad word. Campa is burning money? No, we say Campa is creating brand. Isn't the startup doing the same thing? Just see it from a different lens. View that startup founder in the same vision. Why is it that we sort of give Campa the benefit? Because it is Reliance, because of Mr. Mukesh Ambani, and because the startup guy is someone who's a 22-year-old and, with his magical brain, all of that has convinced someone, he's got a VC backing him. But we've also got great success stories. And I think India has done magical work with the Perplexity and many others. And the time I'm telling you, my friend, is India's time is now. We mustn't ever tell any startup people creating good companies or great products to sort of say you're burning cash. Let him do it. His time is now. Because one in those will shine and make India so proud that we'll never use the word, ever burn. We'll say you made history.
Yeah, we have Hotmail, which made history. Mr. Bhatia did it.
Absolutely. But there are too many.
Too many. There are too many. That's one just to say. But
too many. How could you think? How could you even think that two people sitting in Jaipur will make a company like Minimalist, which within just less than 3 years, Unilever will buy out for over 4,000 crores. Now that's an India story. And this is happening every single day today. A lady who starts from a small little garage selling wax candles. Then from wax candles, she moves to creating soap. From soap, she moves to shampoo. She moves to Ayurveda. She gets an order of just 100 products to be given to her in a small hotel in Delhi. The lady I'm talking about is a lady who created a brand called Forest Essentials. And she made headlines 2 days ago with Estee Lauder buying out her entire company. This is the world's largest beauty brand in the world. And this lady is just one of the many companies who's a startup. So failure is there. Success is also there. But what I'm trying to tell you is that let's be proud of all these brilliant Indian startups, because even with the money that they've spent or burnt or whatever we want to use, they've invested and they're making each one of us proud, stamping India on the map of the world.
On a very impressive and very important note, you've concluded in a very impressive way, and putting a very important note that don't count it as burn. It's about validating, reaching out, creating
It's
impact.
his dream. It's his passion. You tell that founder, it's it'll burn him, saying that you're going to burn this money. So let's really empathize with that person. Yes, because digital is measurable. All these things are so measurable because you'll know in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if the money is not working, you pull the money away. You don't burn more money. But if the magic is happening, let the taps go on. Let the taps flush, and he will flourish.
And he will also make the other people flourish. It's not just about one thing. The failure comes on the founder, and the entire team succeeds. And the success is a team success, and the failure is founder's failure. And that's how we are harsh on founders a lot of times, and we don't see that failures have led to a lot of success, because there are some failures which are leading to more success. And there, you cannot just say that.
We can't be more thoughtful that we're sitting in a country like Ahmedabad. Literally, the city has the best B school. I have the privilege of being there and teaching those students at multiple times when I've been to the city as well. And while the world might say it's got its Harvard or Stanford or MIT, and they make the best startups, MIT is like right there. Just Google up or ChatGPT or whatever as well. The amount of founders who've made successful stories only from an IIM Ahmedabad, you'll make this city so proud, saying this is what Ahmedabad itself has created for the startup ecosystem.
So now Ahmedabad startup ecosystem is, we have iCreate, we have so I'm very glad that Mr. Anil Gupta, we've worked very closely on some of the areas. He's working aggressively on sustainability, and Srishti, where he works. And my first interaction was with Mr. Anil Gupta, Dr. Anil Gupta, when in Venture Studio, I am Ventures. Yes. So there's, I'm just missing out the name, but he used to put in pizza parties. Yes. So the founders would come and have pizza and share their ideas. Yes. At the campus itself, the new campus. And that's the kind of vibration we need to create, where there is so much of startup incubators happening. Venture Studio is there. Then
a lot. I think the government is doing so much. This is city is doing. So I just feel that yes, let's just be positive. It's great to sort of conclude on a good positive note as well, that clearly the wave of India is there. Every single country wants a piece of our pie. And we need to tell the world that we have not arrived. We arrived many years ago, but we're here and here to stay.
Absolutely. And we're growing from here. And you listen to our story now. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, sir. And
super pleasure being with you, and lovely to be here on Ahmedabad on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes. And this, we usually don't do it on Sunday, but we're doing this because we wanted to make sure to have your time and have you as a part of our House of Starts. And AACA is doing such a wonderful awareness initiative. Sure. So I would just...
Fabulous. I think great work AACA is doing, and full marks to whatever they've been doing, and great show yesterday evening as well. And I hope to keep going back for you all.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I'll see you soon, and hope to have more conversations with a lot of more time and additions.
Sure. Awesome. Fantastic.